Hey guys, and welcome back to Jenny's One Voice. This week I'm going to be tackling the topic of learning everything because I had to learn everything. And I think it is a commonality with autism that you kind of have to learn everything. You just don't have those things wired into your brain like neurotypicals do. So let's dive into that. Yeah. Got my list here. So one thing that I've struggled with and that I've heard a lot of other people's kids struggle with, and people have asked me like, oh my gosh, it's actually a thing. And yes, it is, because it's called the perioceptive system. It's when you don't know when you're hot, you don't know when you're cold, you don't know when you're hungry, you don't know when you're not hungry. Those kind of things. You don't know when you're mad, you don't know when you're sad, but that's kind of a separate thing. The perceptive system more lies on the side hot and cold, and hungry and not hungry. When I was a kid, I never knew when I was hot and I never knew when I was cold. It was something I had to learn. And it's a hard thing to learn. It really is, because when you don't know when you're hot and you don't know when you're cold, it's a weird thing to learn. It's like you basically have to, I don't know how I learned it. Other than when I got my gastric bypass when I was 18, my hormones normaled out, so I got the normal feeling of hot and cold. So that's kind of how I think it went down. And the hunger went normal because of the gastric bypass too, because I could tell when I was hungry more because of the gastric bypass, because my stomach essentially was it was turned into a pouch. And if you eat too much, you just are going to throw up. That's what's going to happen, because you get sick. And before I couldn't tell if I was full, but this pouch tells me if I'm full. And you get sick, really sick, if you eat too much. And people with autism don't know when they're mad or sad, which can lead to meltdowns, because they don't know what emotion they're feeling, and that can be extremely frustrating. Like, to this day, I still don't always know what I'm feeling. I'm better, but I still don't always know, and I don't think I ever will. But I'll always struggle with it, but I have a better concept and understanding now than I did when I was younger. That's for sure. You have to teach your kiddos, like, hey, this is what I feel when I'm mad. Do you feel the same way when you're mad? We get extremely frustrated because we don't know how to communicate our needs. We have to be taught. We don't know facial expressions. My mom would always use her facial expressions as an example. Or sometimes I think you can even in therapies, like they used cards of facial expressions, and they would ask me, what does this facial expression, Jenny? Or they would use their face. But sometimes it can be confusing even with different people's faces because everyone's face is different. So it can be really confusing in that way too. But eventually you'll learn that pretty much you can teach your kids that sad, in general, what sad looks like and what mad looks like and what displeasure looks like and that kind of stuff. They can get it. I did. Yours can too. Tones. Oh, I had such a hard time with tones. I used to think like my mom's angry tone was a joke, so I would giggle hysterically, and I didn't get that she was being mad at me. And this would frustrate her even further because I thought it was some big joke. We don't understand what the tones mean all of the time. So if you're using one tone, we might not understand what that tone is used for. Like if you're using a tone to say we're being naughty, like most children would understand that tone is used when we're being reprimanded or being told not to do something, but we don't. That doesn't click for us. We don't know if people are being real or if they're being fake. I've always struggled with that. That's how I've had so many fake friends, I think, because I always think they're being real and authentic, but then in the end they're not. And it's a really sad thing to go through. It breaks my heart every time because you think you found someone so real and authentic and they're just not. And it ends up in tears every time. And you want to keep, and I don't want your child to feel like that. I don't want them to be disappointed. I want them to know if people are being real. So that's an important lesson to learn, if people are being real. If people are being authentic with them. Like real friendship versus fake friendship. Because if people are just being nice to them because they're autistic, or if they like them for all of them, every part of them. Because I've had people who have just been nice to me because I have a disability, and that's not what I want. I want people to be friends with me because they like me, not because I have a label. Sarcasm, ooh, that one's a doozy. We do not always understand sarcasm. And my family was very sarcastic, and I always thought they were being mean. And I would always scream and yell and get so offended. It took years for me to understand that they were just being sarcastic. And then I started to ask the question, Mom, are you being sarcastic or are you being serious? And then when I started to ask that question, I started to make the differentiation of sarcasm and serious tone, like if she was being sarcastic or serious. And I would do that with joking too. Asking really helped. Are you joking or are you being serious? I still do that because sometimes I still don't know. Mom, I don't know if you're joking or if you're being serious right now. Because I still tend to get easily offended. We don't know what other people are thinking. That's not something that we know, like we can't tell it off of people's faces and body expressions like other people can. Like if someone looks sad, we might just hop in and be like, oh, what a wonderful day. And like I kind of did that at Walmart once, or more than once, when I was working there and didn't realize that what the mood was, and was just kind of oblivious and didn't realize that someone was having a rough day or that something bad had happened, and then took me a few hours or more to realize that someone was suffering and something bad had happened. And then I finally realized and did my best to correct the situation and ask and figure out what was going on with them and be considerate and tell them, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. And try to kind of like explain with, why I didn't realize it with the autism and that kind of thing. Awareness everywhere. We really struggle with social communication. Like, I still don't know how to start conversations sometimes. I'll just sit there and wait for someone to start a conversation. And this is not the right thing to do. You want to start your own conversations because sometimes other people don't know they don't always want to start the conversation. It's a back and forth thing. You start a conversation, they start a conversation, you say hi, they say hi, you ask how they're doing, they ask how you're doing. It goes both ways, or else there's just people get tired of it and they don't want to be the one doing it all the time. And I've been the one who has actually done it all the time with my family members, and I get it. So I try really hard to make sure that I'm not the only one doing it on either side. And that I try to make sure that I let the other person talk and that I listen to his or her interests and ask questions and engage in the conversation and not just talk about myself, that kind of thing. All the stuff I learned in social classes, social groups, therapies, and that kind of thing. And just my mom and being out in general. We have a real hard time standing up for ourselves and with bullies. I had a really good run with my job, but I did stand up for myself, but they would not. listen. And it was always me who was the problem, and that was not the case. And it's hard when I call it the autism card, because they play the autism card. Here's the autism card. I'm going to play the autism card because she's autistic. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I'm going to play the autism card because she's autistic. She automatically doesn't know what she's talking about. I'm going to play that card. And they played that card hand after hand after hand. And people have played that card hand after hand after hand my whole life. And I get tired of it. Because I have learned and I've grown too much for people to keep playing that hand. And don't let people play that hand on your kid. Or because you know what you're talking about, and they will too as they grow up because of what you're teaching them. All these skills are essential so they know what they're doing when they grow up. And they will. Have faith. They will. We are all capable of so many things. And I believe that we are capable of more than the world gives us credit for. And I believe we can do incredible things. We just have to be taught them because they're not automatically programmed into our brain. But don't let people play that card. Not anymore. Because we know what we're talking about. We aren't liars, like I said last week. We are not liars. And don't let the bullies win. We know what we're talking about. When we get to a point where we know what we're talking about, don't let the bullies win. And don't let people step all over you. Standing up for yourself can be extremely hard. And it's hard to get there. I'm still working on it at the age of 24. But I know I will get there. And you can too. It just takes hard work and perseverance. Like anything in this life, it is worth doing because we deserve to be treated like anyone else. Well, thanks for watching this week's video. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys for next week's video. Bye!